Yo, YouTube, what's the deal, man? We got another reaction video for y'all boys, man. I know y'all like these bitches. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Damn, I didn't even say what video we doing. My fault. We doing the killer thinks he got away until the cops find this clue. Let's get right to the video. No bullshit.
I think they advised he's been shot. We got a lot of blood. Where were you shot?
Somebody calling for help.
Who shot you?
These breathless pleas for help were made by 31-year-old Mitchell Jones Jr. after he had been brutally attacked and stabbed over 25 times.
Damn.
As the detectives dove into the
somebody shot him
investigation,
and stabbed
they would
him?
uncover a number of puzzling leads, including foreign DNA,
As I opened the door, I seen passive spatter on the floor.
an abusive partner, and the car the killer drove, caught on camera.
We
I knew he
see
was asleep.
a black vehicle backing out of the victim's driveway.
But they hit one dead end after another, and they began to worry that maybe the killer had gotten away.
It becomes very frustrating, and it puts the big question mark. Are you going to get a solve, or is this case going to go cold?
However, when nearly all hope seemed lost, a new form of technology would emerge, giving them one final clue that would crack the case wide open.
Yo!
For this new piece of technology.
Yo, appreciate the sub, bro.
I don't know if we could have solved this homicide.
Thank you, bro. Alright.
At 9:30 p.m. on November
thank you for the
23,
sub, bro.
2018,
Yo,
a
W.
critically
Rashawn in the
injured
chat,
Mitchell
bro.
Jones Jr. made a heartbreaking
Thank you, Rashawn,
911
bro.
call.
Oh, I can't go.
Thank you, bro.
I'm done. Oh,
Okay, tell me exactly what happened, sir. Tell me the address.
I'm
No.
dying.
Sir, I need to know where you are. Okay, you said someone was still there. Are they still there?
Yes.
Can you tell me if anybody has a weapon?
Yes. Oh.
Officers from the Cobb County Police
that's so
Department
scary,
rushed to
bro.
respond to the scene in Marietta, Georgia. When they arrived, they found his front door wide open.
Wait, what? W streaming GTG. Got to go
Call
at
down,
work.
please.
Gotta go at work. Alright.
Call, please.
Thank you, Rashawn. Hey, Deja.
The officers entered with caution,
Deja, see
unsure
how
of
rude
whether
you are?
the
You don't
attacker
say hey.
was
You
still within
don't
the
say shit
house.
to me, bro.
Cobb County
So
Police.
rude.
Let's go up.
I couldn't be a cop. I'd be too scared.
Cobb County Police, take your foot back. You're in the hell.
But they were about to hear the most chilling cry that would send shivers down their spine. They found the bedroom locked from the outside and forced their way in, but nothing could have prepared them for the gruesome
lock from
scene that
outside?
lay before them.
Victims advised he's been shot. We got a lot of blood. Where were you shot?
Three times.
Who shot you?
Nah, please tell me he lives, bro. Please.
The bedroom was a horror show. The walls were bathed in blood. The room itself was in complete disarray, with broken glass everywhere and clear signs of a violent struggle. But what was most chilling was the sheer intensity of the violence. A scene straight out of a nightmare. Someone had really wanted to kill that night. And that's when, at the foot of the bed, they found the victim, 31-year-old Mitchell Jones, barely alive. Every breath seemed like it could be his last, but his survival offered a rare opportunity for detectives, a chance to hear directly from the victim. But his answer would only lead to more questions for the detectives.
Go get that neighbor next over there.
Do you know who was in here with you?
Yeah, he took my cell phone.
Rather than giving them a name, Mitchell kept repeating that his attacker had taken his phone. In the meantime,
I think he said his
paramedics and
name.
more officers arrived at the scene. While the paramedics did their best to stabilize Mitchell and rush him to medical care, Detective Sarah Penarelli and Detective Carrie Grimstead began their
Crazy
investigation.
name.
As they took in the crime scene, two
Grimstead.
things stood out. First, something at the front door caught their eye.
As I opened the door, I seen passive spatter on the floor. I know that
does that
the
mean?
incident took place upstairs. There was no way that that was the victim's blood. That had to have been left by another person.
The cops had hit the jackpot very early in the investigation. They had the attacker's DNA, which was a crucial piece of evidence. However, little did they know that this was just the beginning of the most twisted case they would ever encounter. It was collected and stored, ready to send for testing.
Okay.
But there
That
was
should be
something
easy,
else
right?
at the scene that the detectives found noteworthy.
The
Yo, I
candles
swear,
were
every
lit.
black nigga got this comforter, bro.
Ever encountered.
Am I tweaking?
It was collected and stored, ready to send for testing. But there
Bro,
was
all my life, every black nigga got this comforter, bro. Like, my auntie got this comforter, bro. I swear to God, every black nigga got this comforter. I'm not tweaking, bro. I know, bro. No cap.
something else
every
at the
black nigga
scene
got
that
that
the
comfort.
detectives found noteworthy.
The candles were lit. There were bottles of water. When the officers found him, he was in his underwear. So this is more of a romantic relationship
Hey, yo.
or somebody really close to Mitchell.
It seemed very likely that whoever the culprit was, they were someone Mitchell was romantically involved with.
Okay.
This made the theft of his phone all the more significant, as police were now sure the attacker had taken it to cover their tracks. To learn more, they would now have to speak to those who knew Mitchell
Stop
and
putting
see
it
if
close
they
to the
were
screen,
aware of
bro.
who he was involved with. They knew where to start as well. Mitchell's next-door neighbor, whom he had mentioned in his pained cries, could hold the key to the entire investigation.
Oh, God.
It was right at this moment that she revealed to the police who had been visiting Mitchell on the night he was attacked.
You saw him with another man at 4 p.m.
The young female just
Nigga, you don't know his name?
She's saying another guy was with this guy.
and that's gay, from what she's saying, and that this car has been here a lot.
Another neighbor recounted how Mitchell often had his friends over, and they would sometimes be a little loud. But that night had been different.
But that evening, the noise got a little louder and a little rowdier.
Okay.
Then I heard the banging on the walls. I remember thinking, sounds like they're fighting.
Finally, Mitchell's mother put Detective Panarelli in touch with one of his close friends, Jasmine, and when they spoke to each other, she had some intriguing information for the detective.
Hello? Hey, Jasmine. I know you and Mitchell were very close. Yeah, I'm just so wow, like, I know. I don't
Wait.
even know what's going on, like. I'm very sorry.
He
I know it's
lived,
hard,
right?
but hey,
He
listen,
didn't
I
die,
really
right?
need your help. Was it towards industry or something? Like, I know he didn't just open the door willingly for that boy. Who is that boy? Hey, what's his old boyfriend he used to mess with?
What's his name?
Mitchell really didn't want to be with him, and I don't know what happened.
The relationship was not a healthy one.
Bro,
that
niggas don't have
this
names.
male had been
She don't know his name?
abusing Mitchell, that there's been physical altercations in the past, and that he was kind of very controlling.
She said that just 3 weeks before the attack, Mitchell had broken up with this unnamed boyfriend, who she only referred to as that boy. But who was this mysterious figure with whom Mitchell had been fighting? With Mitchell's phone missing, how were the police going to identify that boy? It seemed this boyfriend held the key to the investigation, and to find him, the police would have to dive into Mitchell's past. Tragically, despite the best efforts of the medical professionals, Mitchell Jones would succumb to his injuries.
Oh my God.
Mitchell Jones
Damn.
Jr. had moved to Atlanta with the hopes and dreams of becoming an actor. When questioned, his friends and colleagues gave the police some key information about his social circle.
He was a good person. The people he worked with said he would help anybody out. But at the same time, we also learned that he liked the bad boys.
Had Mitchell got mixed up with the wrong crowd?
Who'd that be?
As police looked into who he may have been with, they learned that Mitchell had been young, single, and
Before using
actively
that picture, bro, he
dating,
mad
having
close to
registered
me.
himself on multiple dating apps. This meant that anyone he may have contacted on these apps was now a suspect. But then, something happened that would change the entire face of the investigation, taking it from a savage attack to a sickening act of murder. Now there was a killer on the loose, so Mitchell's body was sent for an immediate autopsy, but the results were unexpected and horrific.
Postmortem examination of Mitchell Jones. What was determined was they were all sharp force trauma or puncture trauma, most likely caused by a cutting instrument.
The violent and manic nature of the crime further emphasized that this was a crime of passion. The detectives needed to find this boyfriend, and they needed to find him fast. They had sent the foreign DNA found at the crime scene
How
for
nobody
testing
knows
against
his
the
name?
CODIS database, but
Ask
the
his mama
testing
or
would take a
something.
few weeks to be completed. While interviewing Mitchell's neighbors, officers would discover that one of them possessed a security camera that pointed right at Mitchell's driveway. Could this heinous crime have been caught on camera? On the night of the murder
That's
at
a Dodge.
around 9:30 p.m., the time when Mitchell placed his 911
That's a
call,
Challenger.
the CCTV footage showed a black Buick Lucerne
Oh, shit.
pulling in and out of the driveway.
Damn.
The footage was too dark to
That was like
spot
a
the
Challenger to
license
me.
plate number, but knowing the make and model of the car was a
Charger, one of them
completely unexpected new lead that would now take the investigation in a new
I
direction.
used to have a Buick.
Investigators looked
I
into
miss my
Mitchell's
car.
exes and acquaintances who they were aware of to see if any owned the same car, but could find none. Having hit another dead end, they turned to other avenues of investigation. Mitchell's cell phone could have likely solved the case in minutes, but since they did not have it, they did the next best thing. The officers located
Who
and
that?
accessed his social media profiles. They were about to
Deja!
uncover something that had the potential to get them
Oh,
the
appreciate
answers
you,
they
Deja.
craved. They received a
W,
photo
Deja,
of Mitchell's
bruh.
elusive boyfriend from Mitchell's friend
Yo,
Jasmine.
thank you, Deja.
Mitchell had sent her the picture, and in it, many of the suspect's tattoos were visible, which detectives hoped could aid in identifying him. Detective
Thank you, Deja.
Penarelli began to comb through Mitchell's Facebook, hoping to find someone who could potentially be the boyfriend.
Yo, I gotta learn.
She saw that he
I
had
gotta
the
learn how to put
phrase,
that shit on the
"Rest
screen.
in Peace
Boy,
Brandon,"
can y'all
tattooed on
see
his
that?
torso, and on a hunch she ran a search
Well,
for
Deja,
the
can you-
term
can you see your name
RIP
pop up on the
Brandon on
screen?
social
On-
media,
on the
but
screen or
even
no?
she could never have expected that it would reveal the
I think you
identity
could,
of their mysterious suspect.
I found a Facebook page that had the hashtag Rest in Peace Brandon. And when I clicked on the profile, it showed the same picture of that boy.
The search turned up the profile of Eric Hopkins. The detectives had finally located Mitchell's boyfriend and were sure that they were about to unmask a killer and end this case once and for all.
GG's.
When the detectives looked into Eric and his past record, they learned something that chilled them to the bone.
He had stabbed a former lover in a domestic type dispute. So it was a very similar incident. We also learned through talking to people that he was very quick to anger.
Eric's anger issues, coupled with his past conviction, clearly highlighted that he was capable of committing this extremely violent murder. The detectives decided that it was time to bring Eric in.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
We need to talk to you about some things. Well, don't know whether you know or not, but Mitchell Jones, he was killed a week ago. Yes, sir, I am. I hate to tell you this over the phone,
Why would he tell him like that on the phone?
but you know, we know you two were in a relationship, and you may have information that can help us in this investigation.
You guys are going to have to speak to my attorney about all of this because I don't really want to be put in the middle of it.
And that's not a problem. I mean, get your attorney, but we need to speak to you like today.
Oh, today?
You won't be able to speak to me today.
Okay.
I'm not answering any more questions until there's a training question.
This only made him seem even more suspicious to the
How?
detectives. They also learned that Eric had an arrest warrant for a probation violation. This was simply too good a chance to pass
yeah,
up,
come here, nigga.
and they made their move,
Oh, yeah.
hoping to make Eric reveal his evil secrets.
Oh, yeah, come here,
Eric was
nigga.
very calm during the
Hey, pause,
interview.
pause, he's gay.
He provided us
Never
his
mind.
phone, provided
Hey,
us
yo.
information who he was with and what location he was at during the time of the murder.
The detectives were shocked by his cooperation. He willingly provided everything they asked for, including a DNA swab.
Yep.
The swab was sent for testing, but the results again would take time. His alibi for the crime was checked and found to be real. The detectives were frustrated that their
Wrong.
best lead had hit a dead end,
Yeah.
but seeing Eric gave them one more idea of what could have occurred.
Mitchell Jones was very athletic, and he was a lot larger than our prime suspect, Eric was. So we knew possibly there was another person involved if it was Eric.
With this new angle in mind, they now began to look into Eric's known friends and associates, hoping to uncover his sinister partner in crime.
What the
When they
fuck?
obtained his phone records, they saw that his most contacted person in the weeks leading up to the murder was none other than Mitchell. But looking further, they saw something more. The second most called number was someone named DeAndre Fleming. Could this be the accomplice they were looking for?
Now our thought process
Wait, why do
did
they still
Eric
think it's the other nigga?
have
Eric.
DeAndre drive to Mitchell's house and kill him for Eric, or they were both there?
On December 11th, 2018, they decided to go speak to DeAndre in person, and when they reached his residence, they would see something that made them sure they were in the right place.
Another detective and I drive to DeAndre's house, and as we're walking up to the driveway, we see a black Buick Lucerne.
Damn, I missed my car, bro.
The same vehicle we saw on video surveillance from that night.
The detectives entered the home, positive that they were about to nab their man, but when they asked him whether he knew Eric Hopkins, DeAndre said he had no idea who this was.
Now we're kind of thinking, okay, is he lying?
Yes.
Or, do we have the wrong DeAndre?
Perplexed, the detectives decided to show him a picture of Eric, wondering if his reaction would betray his lies. But what DeAndre did next was something they never saw coming.
Right as he saw the picture, he said, "Oh, I play video game with that guy," and immediately recognized him.
They realized that even though DeAndre and Eric played video games together, their number had only connected because he used his phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot. While this cleared DeAndre of any suspicion, it had also set the detectives back again. Their prime suspect and his most likely accomplice both now seemed to have no evidence pointing towards their involvement. But just when the detectives were losing hope, they got back crucial evidence that they hoped would crack the entire case wide open.
What?
3 months after Mitchell's murder, the DNA test results from the blood at the front door came back.
It takes 3
The
months.
blood was not a match to Mitchell, meaning it definitely belonged to the killer. But just as the detectives were getting their hopes up, they would be dashed again when they discovered something shocking. The test results showed that the blood was not a match for Eric Hopkins. Their prime suspect was cleared. There were also no matches in the CODIS database, meaning now they had no new leads to follow.
At this point, I feel very upset because I thought we were so close.
Well, so he's
With
cleared.
a lot of time put into finding
Okay, if
Eric
he did it,
Hopkins,
how the fuck
and
did he
then
get caught?
learning that he's not the suspect. That was very frustrating because now I knew we had to start from zero.
At this time, detectives Penarelli and Grimstead would often discuss the case with other detectives within the unit, hoping someone would be able to sniff out a new lead. One of these was Special Agent David Ricey. Now looking for new avenues of
Damn, that nigga eyes
investigation,
pretty as
the
hell.
detectives decided to
No homo.
pivot. They had received Mitchell's cell phone records, and they decided to see if they could use these to track down where his phone could be, as they hoped they could retrieve data from the phone that would point them towards a new suspect.
What we found is the last known location based off of pings and based off of cell site data was in downtown Atlanta. That's very telling to us. How did the phone get there? Did the offender just throw it out the window? Did the offender take it back to his house?
The location of the phone was narrowed down to a vacant lot.
Wait. If they found the black Buick Lucerne at the other nigga house, is that not enough evidence to like at least question the nigga? Like, no? Like, he was there. He knows something. He had to have been there. He knows something. Even though he might have not did it, he knows something though. He was there. They even said they seen his car. What happened to that nigga? He was there.
In downtown Atlanta, Detective Grimstead, hoping against hope, searched this location. But here too, they turned up empty-handed. Despair was beginning to set in as the detectives wondered if they would ever solve this case.
So it's very disheartening. I'm running out of information.
Everything seemed to be coming up empty. With every passing day, the case seemed closer to going cold. But then, just when all hope seemed lost, a revolutionary new technology gave the detectives a glimmer of hope. In March 2019, 4 months after the murder, the detectives of the Cobb County Police Department were having a meeting to see if there were any new approaches they could take to solve the Mitchell Jones case. It was in this meeting that Special Agent Ricey mentioned a new technology he had heard recently about in a cell phone investigation training program with the FBI.
And in that class, I learned about something I hadn't heard before. It was the term geofencing.
A geofence is a virtual perimeter that is set around a geographical location. If the location and timing of a crime is known, then the investigators can ask technology companies to provide them with the users within this perimeter at that point in time.
Every technology company collects end user data for advertising purposes, and law enforcement is simply exploiting that, saying, hey, give us that information so that we can solve a crime.
Our cell phones are a connection to the world around us, and even when they're not in use, they're attempting to utilize the different technology that's around them, whether it's cell towers, whether it's GPS information, whether it's Wi-Fi routers. And what we learned is that cellular carriers, as well as Google, actually collect some of that data.
When cell phone carriers and tech companies collect this data, it holds the location of the devices within that geofence at that time. Now that the detectives had this tool,
I don't get it.
They decided to apply it to the case of Mitchell Jones Jr. In this case, they already knew the location, as well as the time of the attack, since Mitchell had placed the 911 call himself at 9:30 p.m. They set a virtual perimeter around his house at the time of the murder and sent requests out to some major companies for their data.
So I submit a geofence search warrant to Apple, Google, and Facebook. Google responded back to us with evidentiary information in this case.
Google was the only company to respond with the data, but that would turn out to be sufficient as the cops were about to achieve their biggest breakthrough yet. They now had a list of all the people within 500 feet of Mitchell's home in a 45-minute time range around the murder. Now it was up to them to find the killer. They were able to narrow it down to 4 people who were within the geofence at the time of the murder. Okay. After receiving their subscriber information from Google, they began to eliminate these people as suspects one by one.
2 of them were elderly couples, and they lived in that area, on that street. We felt that they just weren't physically capable of committing this type of violence.
Of the 2 remaining, one was the right age and physical stature required, but they had no prior criminal history or record. However, the last one left, who had also been closest to Mitchell's house according to the data, was a vastly different case.
The last one left had the right criminal background that would fit our offender. He had prior aggravated assaults and he had prior thefts.
Okay.
His device went into the crime scene, it pinged multiple times, then it left. It fit perfectly.
They finally had a new name and a new suspect to look into, Dunta Holmes. This name was about to change the course of their entire investigation.
Who is Dante
What about the
Holmes?
first 2
Now
niggas,
that
though?
they had a name before making any move, the detectives had to be sure that this was their man. So they began to look into every possible way they could connect Dunta to the crime.
We learned that he had a criminal history of prior aggravated assaults and he had prior thefts. And so he fit a potential offender of a crime such as this.
They already had the geofence data that placed him near the scene of the crime. Next, they looked at his family and known associates and made a shocking discovery.
And I learned that his mother also owned a Buick Lucerne, whose car he drove all the time.
The evidence was stacking up nicely against Dunta.
Damn.
Next, they looked into his phone's location history, and what they found would only further implicate him in this most gruesome of crimes.
Dante Holmes' cell phone gave us basically the route he took to go to the murder scene and leave the murder scene.
They also found a photo on his cloud storage that had been uploaded on the night of the murder that all but sealed the deal. In it, Dunta appeared to have a bandaged foot,
Why would he
and
do
detectives
that?
were almost certain that this was where the
That nigga
blood
feet
near the
ugly
front
as a
door had come from.
bitch.
With so much evidence
Why
all
would he
pointing to
do
Dunta,
that?
the investigators rushed
Bro,
to
is this
bring him
nigga
in for an
slow?
interrogation. But they could not have anticipated how the interrogation would unfold. On April 12th, 2019, almost 5 months after the murder, Dunta Holmes was arrested and brought in for an interrogation. He agreed to speak to the
I'm not gonna lie.
detectives without an attorney.
He can really get out of
He
this.
also agreed to give a DNA sample for testing, which the detectives collected.
Yeah, GG's.
Then they began to question
It's
Dunta.
over.
What I want to talk to you
So
about
they got his
is
DNA. That's his DNA
Mitchell
at
Jones.
the front step. It's
Do
over.
you
with.
know Mitchell Jones?
Yeah, GG.
There would be no reason for
You're
your
lying.
phone to be at Mitchell Jones's house.
No reason.
No reason. No reason whatsoever. If I told you that was not the correct answer, what would you
You're
say
lying.
to that?
He's
That
lying.
it was wrong?
You're not being honest with me.
Initially, Dunta seemed to be calm enough in the interview, giving off the air of someone who knew of no reason why he should be there. But then he admitted to Detective Grimstead that he used to come up to Marietta to meet someone.
Is that the gentleman you met? That's him? Okay.
Didn't even know his name.
Was just a hookup?
Yeah, it was just like a hookup.
Hey,
Well,
yo.
it's surprised you to know that Mitchell Jones was killed.
Oh, y'all ain't trying to say I killed him. Cause I don't know. Me and dude had no bad blood, period, whatsoever. We never even got to arguing about it. We never got to fighting. None of that. All we ever did was hook up.
Dunta's response here was a red flag as well. He
You don't know his
immediately
name?
became defensive and denied his involvement when the detective told him that Mitchell had been killed. An innocent person who actually cared would have shown concern. But Dunta was oblivious to this, and he would only keep digging a bigger hole for himself.
And when was the last time you saw him?
I knew it before September.
There would be no reason for your phone to be at Mitchell Jones's house after September.
No reason.
No reason whatsoever.
Finally, Detective Grimstead had had enough. Dunta had built himself a wall of lies, and now Detective Grimstead was ready to tear it down with every real piece of evidence they had against him.
Most of the time when we ask you a question, we
They
know
already
the
know the
answers.
answer. That's what I'm saying.
You say you haven't been there since September. This puts you at Mitchell's house in November. Back in November, did you cut your foot, ankle?
I cut my foot.
Mm-hmm. You never had an
Nigga,
injury?
you posted it on IG. Goofy. Yeah.
That's yours.
What? What?
That's not yours.
Even having been
You
confronted by
posted
the
it.
evidence the
That's your
police had
foot.
against him, Dunta
Goofy.
still believed that he was smarter than the detective and could lie his way out of
Oh
trouble.
my God, why would he
The
post
detectives
that?
pressed on with their questioning, knowing that every
Nigga, show the
lie
picture he
Dunta told
took.
them now
Talking about some-
would be held
No, that's
against
not
him
me.
later in court.
Nigga, that's your
Last
foot.
time
Who
you
foot is
were
that?
at
That
Mitchell's
nigga head
house,
shiny as hell.
was there
Someone
any kind
smack that
of
nigga head.
altercation?
Never
Oh,
had
cap.
that. Me and dude just hooked up. That was it.
What kind of car do you have or
I
drive?
don't have a car.
How did you come up to meet with him?
I did. I was in my aunt's car.
Your mama have a black car?
My mom?
Mm-hmm.
My mom ain't got no black car.
Did she?
She used to. You know, we got.
He said auntie. He says auntie card.
Times. Your phone puts you in that same car at the house on those days, and it puts you in the house that day after Thanksgiving. There's surveillance video from across the street. All right, that's why we know the times. And Mitchell made a 911 phone call. Okay, you know you were there. I was not. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I was not.
Would there be any reason your blood would be?
My blood?
Yes, nigga.
I found my blood.
Bro.
Come.
The detectives once again let Dunta build up his false statements
Bro,
before
it's
tearing
2
them
months
down with their
evidence
carefully
for you to
crafted
gain,
facts and
like,
evidence.
Eat
Dunta,
over
however,
it.
still hadn't gotten the message and continued to try and deny everything. Sensing that this strategy wasn't working, the detectives tried a different approach.
We know we've both been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, no,
We know that sometimes things are unintentional. So
Something went horribly wrong in that house.
we need to know what happened. It's crazy. Sometimes things happen that we don't intend to happen. We know you've got a lot on your mind.
The officers showed him empathy and tried to encourage him that he would feel better if he shared what had happened. Then they sat in silence and waited for Dunta to crack. Then, after 4 whole minutes of silence, Dunta Holmes finally opened up. This was the moment detectives had been waiting for.
I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all. I come in the house to talk to you like, I don't want to do this. Like, he had his back turned and he turned around and he tried to stab me. Then we started fighting.
He finna say self-defense.
I hit him over the head with a piece of glass and he dropped the knife.
Boom. Okay.
And I grabbed the knife.
Right.
And he was on top of me. So I stabbed him in the back. He was like,
what you did to me? Seeing I just started stabbing him like, so he tried to get up, fought, but he failed.
But Dunta, in his unending foolishness, had decided to continue to try to lie to the detectives. His latest so-called truth was that Mitchell had been the one to attack him, and he had taken his life in self-defense. Dunta had done his best to paint himself in the best possible light, but the detectives weren't buying it. The autopsy results and the fact that Mitchell had 25 individual stab or puncture wounds was enough proof to invalidate his claim of self-defense. Despite his efforts, Dunta Holmes was arrested and charged with the murder of Mitchell Jones Jr. The detectives then began to prepare their evidence for a trial, as until the guilty verdict was secured, they would not feel at peace, especially with the number of times they had already gotten their hopes up. They received a much-needed boost in the days leading up to the trial.
We eventually got his known DNA once he was arrested. It was compared to the DNA blood drop that was found outside the threshold of the door. We did learn that that matched him.
But even with this evidence, there were still concerns about the trial. Though geofence technology had been used in other states, this was the first time it had been used in the state of Georgia. Cobb County prosecutor Jesse Evans was worried about how this could affect the trial.
We knew that we're not only going to have to explain to the judge how geofencing technology works, but we're also going to have to explain this to jurors as well. Whenever you deal with new things, it makes you nervous as a prosecutor.
But then, on the eve of the trial, Prosecutor Evans received a call from Dunta's defense attorney, and he could not believe what he heard.
We receive a phone call from the defense attorney who says that his client is now ready to accept some responsibility for this crime if we were willing to engage in some sort of plea discussions with him.
On January 6th, 2020, Dunta Holmes pled guilty to malice murder, aggravated assault, and aggravated battery. He was sentenced to life in prison.
What does that mean? Look that up. Is an unlawful and intentional killing a person without justification or excuse. So it's like an accident. It's kind of like a manslaughter, but not really a manslaughter, like type shit. Okay.
But the investigators would receive one last piece of information that would make all their efforts feel worth it.
The defense attorney basically tells Jesse Evans and I why they decided to plead guilty. And there's a couple of reasons. Certainly the fact that Dunta Holmes' DNA matched the blood on the scene. But the one thing the defense attorney told Jesse Evans and I is he felt like he couldn't argue against the technology. And so that largely led to the plea deal.
This case remains one of the landmark cases in terms of geofence technology.
The geofence technology just really sprung this case into life. If it were not for that, there's a possibility it will not be solved.
After this case, geofence technology has only continued to grow in leaps and bounds and has helped solve hundreds of cases in the state of Georgia and across the United States. Mitchell's friends and family are glad that his killer is facing justice behind bars, but they still grieve the loss of their loved one.
I don't think he should ever see the light of day again. I'm sorry, I can't finish my statement.
I can forgive him, but there's no weight off my shoulder. I miss my son.
We would like to take a moment to remember Mitchell, his dreams of becoming an actor, and his passion for animals, a life full of promise, cut short far too early. We hope that his loved ones find some form of peace and closure as time passes.
Well, how much time I
and
give
this
him?
is where we will end the case of Mitchell Jones Jr., a case that showed the world how advancements in technology now mean that digital footprints and evidence are just as important to criminal investigations as fingerprints, blood, and DNA have been in the past. Let us know your thoughts on the case.
Well, I don't even know how much
If
time
there
they
is a case
gave him.
you'd like us to cover, let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
They showed a picture of his foot. Talking about they showed the picture of his foot. He talking about some. Nah, that ain't my foot. Nigga, that's your foot. That he posted on Instagram. Dickhead. Oh, that shit was mad funny.